We live in a culture that treats sleep like a weakness, like an off switch you hit only when you absolutely have to, or a luxury reserved for the lazy. But staying awake is an active state of intense metabolic wear and tear on your brain. The second you wake up, a chemical called adenosine starts building up in your brain tissue. This is a sleep pressure molecule. For every hour you stay awake, more of it accumulates, pressing harder and harder on your neural pathways. Waking up is simply the start of a slow, toxic buildup that your body is forced to eventually resolve. If you resist that pressure and stay awake for 72 hours, reality fractures. During extreme sleep deprivation stunts recorded throughout history, subjects regularly reached a point where they could no longer separate hallucinations from actual events. They saw insects on walls and believed strangers were trying to harm them. The cause of this breakdown is microscopic. The brain's immune cells, called microglia, usually only activate to fight off infections, but when starved of sleep, they activate against you. They literally begin consuming healthy synapses. We know exactly how far this damage can go because of a rare genetic disease called fatal familial insomnia. People with this condition develop a misfolded protein that permanently destroys the region of the brain controlling sleep cycles. Once the insomnia sets in, they lose the ability to sleep entirely. Within months, it results in complete dementia and a 100% mortality rate. Sleep is a non-negotiable rescue operation designed to stop your brain from destroying itself. For centuries, science genuinely didn't know how this rescue operation worked. From an evolutionary standpoint, spending a third of your life unconscious and vulnerable to predators seems like a terrible biological flaw. The mystery remained until 2013, when researchers at the University of Rochester published a landmark study. They discovered the glymphatic system. The rest of your body clears waste through the lymphatic system, but that plumbing network stops at your neck. The brain is entirely isolated. Because it lacks standard bodily plumbing, the brain had to evolve a completely separate, closed-loop waste management system. The trigger for this system is the physical act of falling asleep. The moment you lose consciousness, your brain cells actually shrink in size. This contraction opens up microscopic pathways between the cells, allowing cerebral spinal fluid to aggressively flush through the brain tissue. One of the main targets of this current is a toxic protein byproduct called beta amyloid, the exact same protein that accumulates heavily in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. This chart illustrates the sheer efficiency of the wash. When the brain transitions from an awake state to an asleep state, the fluid clearance rate spikes to roughly 10 times its normal speed. You aren't resting. You are running an active, high-pressure washing cycle required to physically clear out the metabolic garbage generated by a day of thinking. This dictates how we need to look at the standard recommendation of 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It is not a wellness suggestion. It is the literal physical time required for the glymphatic wash cycle to finish its job. This graphic shows why the short sleeper is a myth for almost everyone. Only about 3% of the population carries a genetic variant called ADRB1, which allows their brains to clear waste faster. The other 97% of us require the full cycle. If you are in that 97% and you regularly sleep 5 or 6 hours, you are accumulating structural damage. Worse, the very first thing sleep deprivation destroys is your cognitive ability to accurately judge how impaired you actually are. When you force yourself awake with an alarm every morning, you are aborting your brain's cleaning cycle while toxic waste is still sitting in the tissue. Over years and decades, that chronic sleep debt forms a direct, measurable link to significantly higher risks of Alzheimer's disease and severe cognitive decline. No amount of perfect dieting, no intense exercise, or expensive supplements can trigger the glymphatic system to wash away those beta amyloids. Sleep remains the single most critical biological mechanism you have for cognitive survival and long-term health. You cannot hack this system.